One of the first things I tell clients, if they've been in a crash, to see a doctor immediately after an accident. Oftentimes, my clients will say, well, yeah, I don't feel any pain, I don't have any broken bones, and they simply don't go see a doctor. So today I'm talking with Dr. Scott Clark of Clark Integrated about what actually happens to the spine in a car crash. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of my clients don't feel pain immediately after a car crash. Is it possible for pain and injury to appear later?
It is. Many times people don't feel the full effect of trauma until weeks or even months after. You can compare it to if you haven't been to the gym in a while and you go and work out, you're usually the most sore a few days later. The injuries and symptoms from a trauma can sometimes take a while to manifest themselves.
What kind of force does it take to cause injury to the neck or spine?
Sometimes it doesn't take much force at all. We've probably all heard of someone rupturing a disc in their spine after sneezing or bending over to pick up a paperclip. There are a lot of underlying factors that go into that. So force equals mass times acceleration. So especially when we're talking about the neck or whiplash, when you think about the mass of the torso and the mass of the head, which weighs about 16 pounds, the neck is a very small structure in between those that is only really supported by ligaments. So when there's a quick jolt to this area, the force can be a lot more than you think.
Do you know, Dr. Clark, what is the actual amount of force in a typical collision?
Well, each collision is different, but I'll give you a common example. If you have someone stopped in an average car that weighs about 3,000 pounds, and someone with the same size vehicle rear ends them at 7 miles per hour, that's enough force to produce 6 to 19 G's of force. To put that into perspective, it only takes 8 G's to put our astronauts into orbit. The difference is that the collision at 7 miles an hour happens in 1 to 2/10 of a second, whereas the astronauts are put into orbit in over an hour. The timing or lack of timing can cause a tremendous amount of damage to the structures of the spine.
So what would be a common injury or symptom from a collision like that?
This person may feel nothing at first, but eventually experience neck and back pain, muscle spasms, or maybe even pain, numbness, or tingling down the arms or legs. They may also have symptoms of mild traumatic brain injury, such as concussion, dizziness, lightheadedness, forgetfulness, etc., those types of things as well.
So a person is involved in a car crash. How does your approach differ from other medical clinics?
When someone comes into our office, they'll either see our medical doctor or PA first for a comprehensive orthopedic and neurological evaluation, and we'll take x-rays as well to evaluate the spine. Our medical team has the ability to prescribe medication or perform injections if necessary. Continued treatment may include chiropractic care to improve the function of the spine and physiotherapy to stabilize and strengthen the spine as well.
So you got a medical doctor, a physician assistant, and multiple chiropractors in your office, is that right?
That's correct.
So is there anything in your evaluation that would reveal that wouldn't necessarily show up in a evaluation done by a medical doctor?
In our office, we're experts at differentiating between soft tissue injury and connective tissue injury, which affects not only the course of treatment, but the value of these cases as well. We're able to offer more than other clinics because of our integrated approach to treatment. If a patient's injuries are more than we can handle in our office, we have the ability to order further imaging, such as MRI or CT, and refer those patients out to the appropriate provider.
So it really sounds like being treated at Clark Integrated is the best of both worlds, as given all the services you guys offer.
We like to think so, and we work really hard at being able to provide a range of treatments for people who are injured in any type of collision.
So, in my office, I get this argument a lot from insurance companies that they'll say that, this vehicle had very little damage, has a scratch on it or a minor dent. So that person who was in it, the driver or the occupants, they shouldn't have any injuries from this accident, from that particular crash. What do you say in response to that?
We hear that a lot as well, and the reality of it is that over the years, as they've improved the safety ratings of vehicles, they've done that by stiffening these cars and stiffening these bumpers. And so when you have a vehicle that gets into a collision now with that stiff bumper and there's no crush distance there, all of the energy and force from that vehicle goes into the occupants of the vehicle, instead of the car absorbing all of that force. And so the injuries can actually be worse. And so what we find is that we're seeing a lot more serious injuries in lower impact collisions than we are in the higher impact collisions when that vehicle is actually crushed a little bit.
I know I've seen from my practice, I've seen cars totally destroyed in an accident and a person walks out without a scratch on them. And I've seen a minor bump to the rear, someone ends up having a neck surgery.
Correct.
From a legal standpoint, if a person is in a car crash and doesn't seek treatment immediately after that crash, the insurance company often will say, well, you weren't hurt. So, and they'll try to use that in a way to devalue their case. So is there a list of, like, let's say 4 or 5 symptoms that a person can look out for after a car crash? And if they don't feel any of those, is it fair to say they just don't need to go to see a doctor after that?
I would disagree with that. I would say if you've been in a car crash, any kind of collision, you need to go get checked out, because you never know, and you may have delayed symptoms. These are you may have some injuries that that you may not notice for months afterwards, that could be pretty serious. And so it's important to get checked as soon as possible after any type of trauma.
Well, that makes perfect sense. So I want to thank you, Dr. Clark, for this was certainly valuable information. And for those that are watching, if you are in a car crash, make sure you go see a healthcare provider immediately thereafter, even if you don't feel any symptoms. As Dr. Clark was saying, those symptoms can appear days or weeks, even months later. So go get checked out. Getting checked out sooner than later will get you on the track to feeling better, and it'll likely help your case if you end up filing an insurance claim. I'm Blaise Inzina.
And I'm Dr. Scott Clark.
Just remember, just because it can go wrong, it doesn't mean it has to.